Hey guys, the buyer who was supposed to come and pick up my motorcycle today, he didn't come. Called me and said he needs more time. So, welcome to True Story Sunday. Figured I would go out and film another one since the weather was nice and cool. It's gonna rain here in a little bit, and now is the perfect time for me to do this. Today's story is sort of an origins story about how I became the person that I am today. And what I mean by that is how I became sort of a motorcycle adventuring type of dude. It all started in Nicaragua when I was deployed there, and I decided after 4 months of being in Nicaragua, well, Mitch and I both decided really as friends that we really liked Central America and we wanted to see more of it. So we hatched an idea to buy, this was the idea, we were going to get an old like Volkswagen Beetle and fix it up, and then once the deployment was over, we were going to drive it back to the United States from Nicaragua. But the Army, they didn't like that idea, and they told us that we would get an Article 15, and they had taken us to Nicaragua, they had the responsibility to get us back. We even went to the JAG officer and asked if he could write up a document for us that we could sign, releasing, if we ended up with a Colombian necktie, it would release the Army from any liability. And they said no. So we were stuck there. We should have just done it because, gotten lost at the airport or something. No one would have noticed, I don't think. But we didn't do it. Instead, what we did was we went home, went back to Utah, and about a month later, we decided we were going to do the trip that we wanted to do. We were going to get some backpacks, and we were going to go back to Central America, and we were going to have our trip, and we would travel back to Utah. We decided to buy tickets to Costa Rica. I don't know why we didn't choose Panama. We just didn't occur to us. We probably just should have started from Panama. That would have been cool. But we chose Costa Rica. We flew there. We both had round-trip tickets because everybody was telling us, don't do it, you'll die, you'll be killed, you'll be kidnapped, all those things that you hear when you mention, hey, I'm going to Central America. All these people who have never been there just come out of the woodwork telling you about how dangerous it is, even though they've never been there. So we had round-trip tickets, and we were in a little, I remember our first night there, we got there and it was dark and it was a little bit spooky, and we were walking, we found a place, we found a hotel that had a vacancy, and so we got the key, and it was very dark, right? And as I went to put the key in the door, there was a rock right in front of the door. I figured it was like there to be used as a doorstop or something. And as I put the key in the door, the rock reached up with these two giant claws to grab me. It was a crab. And I remember I jumped about 3 feet in the air. It scared me to death, and Mitch was dying laughing. And that was our first night in Costa Rica. But after we were there for a couple of days, we decided, we'd been there for like 5 days, and our tickets were to go home in 7 days. And we talked about it, and we said, we decided, I think we can do this. And so I remember we very dramatically ripped up our tickets and threw them in our return tickets and threw them in the trash. And we loaded up our backpacks and went and got on a chicken bus and started our journey back to Utah. And we had an awesome time. I mean, we knew so little about traveling. I remember we didn't have a clue what we were going to do and how we were going to get from point A to point B. We just went. And about a week before we left to Costa Rica, I happened to be in a bookstore and noticed, I was looking for books about Central America or something. I didn't even know that there was such a thing as a travel guide. I didn't know what Lonely Planet was. So I found this Central America on a shoestring book that had all the countries and maps to everything, and I was like, wow, I can't believe this. We're gonna have so much fun on this trip because now we know where to go and where to stay and how to get there and all this stuff. It makes the trip, it shows you all the cool places to go to, and Guidebooks are awesome, but we almost left with no guidebook, no clue at all where we were going or how we would get there. So we had an awesome trip. Together we traveled from Costa Rica to what's the name of the place? Up to Guatemala, and then over to Belize, and then back to Guatemala City. And Mitch, because he was in school, Mitch needed to get back for the beginning of the next semester, so he flew home from Guatemala City, and I spent about another month traveling just by myself and making friends with people at hostels all across Mexico. I went from Guatemala City to Mexico. To Mexico, and then all the way up, pretty much by myself. Mostly taking the bus. We hitchhiked a little bit. I even took a train in one spot through the Copper Canyon, through Mexico's Copper Canyon, which was epic. And then Mitch picked me up at the Greyhound bus station in Las Vegas, Nevada, which is right at the end of Fremont Street. And Fremont Street is a pretty rough place. And I remember, of all the places that I had been, that standing there waiting for Mitch to show up and pick me up was the most frightening. It was the most frightening part of the trip, because I was offered every kind of drug that you can imagine. I was propositioned by prostitutes. I was just like, welcome back to the United States, where the danger is real. I didn't want to come this way. Sometimes I get distracted when I'm talking, but I remember I was dressed very touristy. I figured, you know what, I don't care if I stick out like a sore thumb. I am just gonna I'm gonna buy all these touristy weird clothes. And I had this big hat with all these crazy designs in it, like a cowboy hat. And I had sewn sort of headband thing around the outside of the hat, and it had this tail that hung off the side. And so I looked like a raging hippie, but really I was more of a soldier than a hippie. And this dude walked by, and as he passed by me, he said, kind of under his breath, "Marijuana." And I didn't say anything, and he stopped and he turned around and he goes, "You smoke weed, right?" And I said, "No." And he said, "How are you gonna wear a hat like that and not smoke weed?" And I was like, "I don't know, dude, I just don't." I just don't. Plus we get drug tested all the time. We get drug tested all the time, and in the Army, and you just can't do it. Even if we didn't get drug tested, I wouldn't smoke the stuff. So Mitch picked me up, and he went back to Utah, and then my parents picked me up in St. George and drove me the rest of the way home. And I traveled. I was on the road for 2 months, and I traveled about 5,000 miles from Costa Rica to get home, mostly by bus. And that's very frustrating, because when you're in those buses, they pick people up, and then they drive a little bit, and they gotta stop again, and they gotta let people off. It's really hard to make any kind of progress, but it's a really cheap way to travel, cheaper than taking a motorcycle for sure. But this trip, the backpacking trip, was sort of the genesis of the motorcycle trip. One night, Mitch and I were in a place called La Libertad, El Salvador. And we were staying at this little beach condo place, surfing hangout. And we asked this guy working at the front desk if we could take the bus back into the main part of town. And if we could take the bus into the main part of town and go to the disco and hang out for a while, and then take a taxi back late at night. And he's like, "Oh yeah, sure." So we headed off that way. And when we got there, it was like a Wednesday night, and nobody was there. We were the only 2 people in this whole discotheque. And they had a big screen TV there and a DVD player, and I was like, "Well, what movies do you have? Maybe we'll just chill here and watch a movie." and he had 2 DVDs. And I can't remember what the other one was, but one of them was The Motorcycle Diaries. And I had heard that it was a cool movie, but I had no idea what it was about. I didn't realize that it was based on a true story or that it was about Che Guevara or anything like that. And I said, yeah, let's pop that one in. So that's what we started watching. And I remember there were points during that movie where I was standing up and cheering them on as they had as Che and his friend. Oh boy. As Che, oh, there's 2 of them. I got 2 bogeys on my tail here, and I'm at a dead end. I think I'm gonna be okay. Here we go. So I remember, good grief. I remember telling Mitch, that's it, dude. That's the next trip. This is the next trip right here. Watching that movie, I was so inspired, and I wanted to have my own motorcycle adventure so badly that I was just like, okay, dude, this is what we're doing next. A motorcycle trip across Central America. And as we backpacked across, I kept seeing people on motorcycles. You know, big GS motorcycles parked out in front of hostels, and I was like, man, those guys are badasses. I want to do that so bad. They're just driving across Central America. That's so badass. I want to be like those guys. So I really put it in my head that I was going to start saving up for a bike and do that trip. And that's kind of how it all started out. I'm going to have some more updates for you soon. The last video about me selling the bike was the real deal. It's going to be gone in a week. This guy who I promised I would sell it to, if he doesn't show up with the money, I have no idea where I am. If he doesn't show up with the money in a week, by next Wednesday, I have another guy who also wants to buy it. So, crazy thing is I haven't even put it on Craigslist or anything. I didn't even advertise that it was for sale. People just heard about it and started asking me. I mean, it's beat up as it is. It's the KLR 650, and they're hard bikes to get down here. So, didn't have any problem selling it. And these people that are interested, they have actually seen my videos. So it's not like I'm pulling a fast one on anybody. They know what it's been through. But anyways, guys, this has been a True Story Sunday. Ride safe, travel far, do it soon.